Okay, so we're back here. I'm in lesson 18, begin. I did make a couple of small changes to the settings on the animation wires. I was getting a little bit of stretching, so I lowered my magnitude a bit to zero point 0.8. You can also see I lowered the influence on the tip to about 50% of what it was. That helped a little bit. It was just moving a little bit too much. And I also added some interpolation, which cleaned up the effect just a bit. You could see it even told me, good values, 0.5. So that's what I used. So here's the result. Go ahead and, oops, doesn't seem to be playing. Let me try that again. There we go. Sorry, I just had to reload it really quick. So you can see it works. It's not moving as much as I'd like. You can see that as he kind of raises his hands, we can see the hair kind of wag back and forth kind of at the edge over there. What I might do is in the future, probably maybe up this influence a little bit higher and maybe a tiny bit less interpolation, a tiny bit more magnitude. But overall, you could see it worked. I don't have any significant errors. The fur is folding nicely under his arms. And we now have animation on our fur. Now, this is not the only method to go about adding some animation to our fur. It is a elaborate one. It is going to give us probably the better results in the end because it is full, hair simulation that's being tied into XGen. But if you're interested in adding some animation and not really going through all of that, there is, as I just mentioned, an easier alternative. So what I'm going to do is clean this up a little bit, meaning that I'm actually just going to delete out my hair system and delete out the animation wires. And oh, as I mentioned earlier, I did cache out the hair. That way I can just jump to any frame and it's already kind of, cached out for me. I don't have to wait for it to kind of run through each time. To do that, all I did was select my hair system and I just went up here to, end cache, create new cache, and I just went ahead and cached it as an N object. That cache will be included along with the rest of the files. So I'm going to go ahead and pause and kind of clean this up a bit. I'm just going to remove my hair system and remove the animation wires, and I'll be back in just a moment. Okay, it's been cleaned up. So what I was referring to is here underneath our modifiers, we have a modifier called wind. There's other forces too that you can play around with, like spherical forces, but wind is going to kind of give us, I think, a better look on fur. It's going to give us the look of wind. I'm going to go ahead and add that in. Just a moment. Okay, so you can see you have a bunch of controls here. We have the stiffness, we have the direction of the wind. This is an XYZ direction, so it's a vector. Right now it's telling us it's blowing into positive X, so that's going to be blowing kind of across him this way, so towards his left, our screen right. We have the constant strength, 0.5, the occasional gust strength, and even the shear strength. Kind of scroll down here, we also have the frequency of the shear, and we have various other options for high and low biases. So let's kind of just see how this works. I mean, it's actually already pre-set up for us. We don't have to do much else. It's just a matter of play blasting. Now, at the moment, I have this set up with a bit more fur. I wanted to preview to show you guys earlier with more than 20%. I believe I have it set to, let's see, preview output, 35%, just to see how this wind is working, so I'm not waiting a half hour for a preview. I'm going to put this down to 20%. There we go. And you can see there's already something going on. Do you see how this first kind of picked up over here and it's pulled down? We can see the hair kind of pulled across his chest over here. If we were to shut off that wind, you could see that immediately goes away. So our wind is working already. So I'm going to go ahead and play blast that and just kind of pull out a little bit here. I'll be back in just a minute to show you what the result looks like. So I cut the preview off around frame 40 here. It's a little hard to tell. I did preview it a little bit on the small side. I'll do my next one at a larger scale. But you can see the wind isn't all that noticeable. It's clearly blowing in that it's pulling this fur up and over, but we're not seeing it all that erratic. So let's go ahead and maybe make a couple other changes here. I actually have it set now to update automatically. That's why that updated there. You can see right there, that's my update automatically so that I can play blast with the actual fur. So let's go ahead and make some changes. For example, the stiffness of the fur, I'm going to go ahead and probably bring down, actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to bring up to about 0.8. So it should react a bit more to it. Actually, maybe I'm crazy and maybe it's the other way. Yep, it is the other way, so I'm bringing that down. Not sure why I thought it was the opposite for a moment. So that should react a bit more. I'm going to add some extra directionality to it. I'm going to also add, let's say 1, actually maybe 0.5 in the Y. So we kind of have it pushing up just a little bit as well. So it's going to puff up, might be easier to notice. I'm going to up the constant strength to about maybe 1.5. That is definitely noticeable. Let's take that to 0.8. Okay. I'm not trying to make this look amazing. I just want to make sure it's actually something we can notice and see. Let's see. So our gust strength, that'll kick up to maybe 1.2. So on occasion, it does have a bit more power there. And if I want to add some of that noise over there, I'll go ahead and do that. And we'll say that the low frequency for the noise, I'm assuming actually these numbers are probably okay. I can always go ahead and change it later if I need to. Let's go ahead and do another preview. I'm going to go ahead and change my preview settings here so that they maybe use the whole size of the window. Okay, go ahead and re-preview that. And I'll go ahead and play blast that and be back in just a moment. So that actually didn't turn out too great. It's definitely blowing over more, but I'm not actually seeing enough movement in it. So let's make a couple more changes. I'm going to go ahead and bring up my XGen again. Let me turn off my automatic preview just for a moment. And I think I am going to need to come in here and most likely make some adjustments to the noise. So I'm going to change the high frequency to something pretty big. I'm going to try 20. Bias is fine. The high strength we can kick up a bit. Low strength, 5. I have no idea exactly what I'm setting these at. I mean, they're just kind of noise. I'm sure if I was previewing them, I'd have a slightly better idea. But you could see there's definitely a lot more noise going on now. Let's actually, now that we do have that much noise, maybe bring down our overall strength, maybe to 0.4. Let's go ahead and update that. We'll take the gust strength down as well. And we'll see, I may have gone a little crazy with the overall strength there. I just want to make sure we see a little bit of motion. So I'm going to go ahead and preview once more. So be back in just a moment. Okay, so it looks like there was actually a problem with the wind modifier. I deleted it. It wasn't giving me any results. It wasn't moving. And you can see I added it in. It immediately is now working again. So not sure what that was, but if you have that where it's just not animating, just delete it. So I didn't add a lot of the settings we had before. I left it at almost the defaults this time. And you can see we're already getting a reaction. As the body moves, it does react to the wind a little bit more. So that is something to think about. I'm not 100% sure why that happens, but that is the case. However, if you set up your settings, not correctly is the incorrect word, if you adjust your settings however you need them, you can actually get the wind to look like it's moving a little bit more constantly. For example, let me go ahead and bring up my XGen. You can see that my gust strength is all the way up at 4, and my constant strength is just at 0.1. So it's only at those gusts that, to me appear to be kind of happening when the mesh is moving. So you could always adjust your constant strength here to be a little bit higher. And again, you could always add more noise and things like that over here to keep that looking like it's constantly moving. So I sometimes use this here if I just need a little bit of motion on the fur. I'm not really interested in full simulation. Now, you will see this button down here, or this little check box for rigid body. What this is going to do is treat every hair as a rigid body, meaning that it's not going to deform. Let me turn that on and show you what I mean. They'll move. They'll kind of shift at their base, but they won't actually deform. So you can think of this more for like almost bristles on a toothbrush as opposed to deformable fur. Now, if you're maybe using this for quills on a porcupine, this may be the option you want because that is going to be something that's not going to deform the way fur is going to. We'll just turn that off right there. So that's a look at yet another way to add in some dynamics to our fur. And that pretty much wraps up dynamics. Is there more here? Absolutely. It's very easy to use. Just feel free to go in and explore. Now, I think it's a good time for us to go ahead and kind of resume working on the look of our fur. We've combed it out. We like how it looks. We've added two different types of dynamics. You can feel free to choose and use whichever one you'd like. Heck, try both if you want. What I want to do now is start setting up the shader and the lights so that we can get ready for our render. So I'll see you guys in the next lesson, and that's exactly what we'll be doing.